What happens when your own sister tries to frame you for theft and turn the entire family against you? For this person, it was the last straw. But little did she know, they had a secret weapon, the truth, caught on camera. Get ready for a dramatic family showdown, complete with shocking revelations, unexpected betrayals, and a courtroom battle you won't believe. Buckle up, because this story is about to get wild. This story follows an individual who is falsely accused of a serious offense by their sister, leading to significant family conflict and alienation. Determined to clear their name, the protagonist quietly gathers evidence. The narrative builds towards a tense family dinner where the truth is finally revealed, exposing a web of lies and deceit. The story explores themes of sibling rivalry, the destructive power of false accusations, and the fight to protect one's reputation within a fractured family dynamic. It hints at a major turning point during the dinner that dramatically shifts the family's perception of the accused and the accuser. Sister said that I stole her money from the wedding and now the whole family hates me. Days later, I came to the family dinner, showed video proof, and shocked everyone. The wedding day was as beautiful as anyone could have hoped for. My sister Cheryl was radiant in her designer gown, and Sean, her now husband, looked like the happiest man alive. Everything went smoothly. The vows, the champagne toasts, the dancing. If there was any tension, I didn't feel it, at least not until the night after the wedding. The family had gathered at my parents' house to relax and talk about the big day. We were in the middle of rehashing funny moments from the dance floor when Cheryl stood up dramatically, her voice shaking as she announced something that hit me like a truck. Gerald stole our honeymoon money. $110,000, it's gone. The room fell silent. I could feel everyone's eyes turn to me. My brain couldn't process what she had just said. Stole me? It was absurd. Before I could even defend myself, Cheryl went on and on. She talked about how devastated she was, how she'd been crying all day, and how betrayed she felt. Sean sat frozen, looking like he'd been hit by a freight train. My parents, however, immediately sprang into action to support her. Gerald, how could you do this? My mother said, shaking her head in disappointment. You ruined everything. Steal from your sister? Your own sister? Dad added, you're not welcome here anymore. I tried to speak up, to explain that I hadn't touched a dime. I pointed out that I had been at the front desk all night in full view of everyone and that I didn't even know where the money was kept. Sean, to his credit, seemed unsure, even saying, I don't think Gerald would do something like that. But Cheryl wasn't having it. Stop defending him, Sean. She snapped. He's lying. I can't believe you take his side over mine. Gerald, you're disgusting. Get out of my sight. I was stunned. The anger in her voice wasn't just about the alleged theft. It was personal. My parents joined her in telling me that I was no longer part of the family. You are no longer our son, my father said, and that was the final blow. I exchanged glances with Sean, who looked as confused as I felt, and then I left. As I drove away, I began to put things together. I knew exactly why she was doing this. It wasn't about the money. It was about our grandmother. Grandma had made it clear a few months earlier that she intended to leave me most of her inheritance. She believed I would use it wisely and take care of the family legacy. Cheryl, the self-proclaimed golden child, was furious. She had tried to convince Grandma that she deserved the money instead, but it hadn't worked. Now that Grandma's health was failing, Cheryl was desperate to make me look like the bad guy. It was her way of sabotaging me. I was angry, but I also knew this wasn't over. If she was going to play dirty, I could play dirtier. I had a secret of my own, one I'd kept to protect Sean. Cheryl had been cheating on him for months. I hadn't planned on exposing her, but after what she'd done, all bets were off. I began to plan my revenge. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about what Cheryl had done. The betrayal hurt, but what hurt even more was the fact that my parents believed her without a second thought. I couldn't even look at my phone because the family group chat exploded with texts about how I had let everyone down and how ashamed they were of me. It was as if Cheryl had flipped a switch, and suddenly I was the family villain. But I wasn't going to let her win. Cheryl thought she could destroy me and walk away unscathed. What she didn't know was that I had been sitting on a bombshell for months. Back in August, I'd accidentally caught her with someone who wasn't Sean. I'd gone to a coffee shop in the next town to meet a friend, and there she was, sitting in a corner booth, holding hands with some guy the first didn't recognize. They weren't exactly subtle, kissing, laughing, acting like a full-fledged couple. I didn't say anything at the time because honestly, it wasn't any of my business. I figured it would come back to bite her eventually. I just never expected it to be me who'd have to bite back. Now, I needed proof, something solid, something undeniable. I knew her routine well enough. She'd always claimed she was visiting a friend or running errands when she disappeared for a few hours each week. It didn't take a genius to figure out what she was really doing. My best guess was Thursday around 7 p.m. That seemed to be her usual window. So, I parked my car down the street from her house and waited. Sure enough, just after 6:45, Cheryl walked out, got into her car, and drove away. I followed her, keeping a good distance so she wouldn't notice. She went to the same coffee shop where I'd seen her before. The guy was waiting for her in the parking lot. I parked discreetly across the street and started recording. They hugged, then kissed. And not a quick peck. This was the kind of kiss that made it clear that Sean wasn't even a thought in her head. They went inside and sat by the window, looking like a couple on a romantic date. The guy kept leaning in close, touching her arm, whispering in her ear. Cheryl ate it up. I recorded the whole thing, 7 minutes of golden footage that would turn the whole situation on its head. When they finally left, I made sure to catch them hugging again before they got into separate cars and drove away. I waited until she was long gone before I drove home. My heart was pounding all the way home, but it wasn't nerves, it was anticipation. I knew I had something that would shatter her perfect little facade. But I wasn't going to rush into it. I had to wait for the right moment. Cheryl had gone nuclear on me at a family gathering, so it was only fitting that I returned the favor. I decided to set up a dinner a few days later and pretend to apologize and make amends. My parents, still angry with me, reluctantly agreed. Cheryl didn't hesitate to accept, probably thinking it would be her chance to humiliate me further. Little did she know what was coming. The days leading up to the dinner were excruciating. I stayed completely quiet, even as Cheryl continued to throw barbs in the family group chat about how some people can't take responsibility for their actions. My parents ate it up, of course. Every time I saw a text pop up from them saying something like, "We are so proud of you, Cheryl, for handling this with grace," I wanted to scream, but I kept my cool. I knew it would be worth it. The morning of the dinner, I texted everyone in the family group chat, including Sean. I said I wanted to meet for dinner and clear the air. I owe everyone an explanation, I wrote, and I need to apologize, especially to you, Sean. My mother replied first, saying they'd be there, but that I'd better have a damn good reason for what I'd done. Cheryl chimed in with a sarcastic remark about how she hoped I was ready to confess. Sean's response was short and neutral, just a thumbs up emoji. Perfect, everything was falling into place. I spent the day getting ready. I loaded the video onto my laptop and tested it to make sure the quality was good. I also printed out screenshots just in case anyone tried to accuse me of faking the footage. When I arrived at my parents' house for dinner, I felt like I was going into a battle, and I was ready to win. The atmosphere was tense as I walked in. My parents barely acknowledged me, and Cheryl sat at the head of the table, looking smug as ever. Sean was next to her, quiet and reserved as he had been since the accusation. I didn't know if he believed I had stolen the money or not, but he was clearly keeping his thoughts to himself. We all sat down, and I began by taking a deep breath. First of all, I want to say that I'm sorry for how things turned out. I know you're all angry with me, and I understand why, but I've been thinking about everything that's happened, and I realize there's something I should have said sooner, something I've been holding back. Cheryl leaned forward slightly, her eyes bright with anticipation. She probably thought I was going to confess. My mom and dad just stared, waiting. Sean looked uncomfortable. I pulled out my laptop, put it on the table, and opened the video file. "What you're about to see is not easy to watch," I said. "But I think it's important for everyone here to know the truth." Cheryl's smug expression faltered for the first time as I pressed play. The room fell silent as the video began. It showed her walking up to the guy in the coffee shop parking lot, hugging him, kissing him, the date in the coffee shop, the way they couldn't keep their hands off each other, and then the last shot. Them hugging again in the parking lot before they drove away. The video ended, and for a few seconds, no one said a word. Then, Sean spoke. "Who the hell is that?" he asked, his voice sharp. Cheryl's face flushed. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. "Answer him," I said. "You accused me of stealing, of tearing this family apart when all along, you were the one who was lying." This isn't your friend, is it? How long has this been going on? Cheryl stammered, but Sean didn't wait for her to answer. He pushed back his chair and stood up, his face a mixture of anger and disbelief. You've been cheating on me, he said. The whole time I was working my ass off to give you the life you wanted, the house, the car, all of it, for this? My parents looked like they'd been hit by a truck. My mother turned to Cheryl, her voice shaking. Cheryl, is this true? Cheryl finally managed to speak. It's not what it looks like, she said, but no one believed her. This will be a lesson to you, Cheryl, I said, standing up. You started this war, all I did was finish it. Sean grabbed his keys and left without another word. My parents, still in shock, turned on me. How could you do this to her? My father said. Me? I shot back. She accused me of stealing 10 grand to make me look bad, and I'm the bad guy for showing the truth? You should ask her how far she's willing to go to cover up her lies. I didn't wait for an answer. I grabbed my stuff and left. I wasn't sticking around to hear any more excuses. They wanted a villain, and now they had one. But this time, it wasn't me. After the dinner, I didn't hear from anyone in my family for days. No texts, no phone calls, no attempts to explain or apologize. It was radio silence. I figured they were probably trying to clean up the mess Cheryl had made. The first person to reach out wasn't even the family, it was Sean. He called me 2 days after the dinner, and frankly, I was surprised he wanted to talk. I thought he might be mad at me for blindsiding him like that, but he didn't sound mad at all. I just wanted to say thank you, he said, for being honest. I wish it hadn't come to this, but I'm glad I know. We talked for a while, and he told me he'd already started making arrangements to move out of the house he shared with Cheryl. He also mentioned that he'd canceled their trip to the Maldives and stopped making payments on the car he'd promised to buy her. She can figure out her own life now, he said. I asked him if Cheryl had tried to talk to him since the dinner. She's been blowing up my phone, begging me to understand, he said. But there's nothing to understand. She cheated, end of story. Hearing him say that gave me a strange sense of closure. At least someone in this whole mess was seeing things clearly. A few days later, my mom finally contacted me. She sent me a long, guilty text message about how disappointed she was in me for ruining Cheryl's relationship and how families should always support each other no matter what. I stared at the message for a while, trying to decide if it was even worth responding to. In the end, I sent back a short reply. Family supports each other by telling the truth, not by covering up lies. Maybe you should think about that. That didn't go over well. My dad followed up with a message telling me I was being immature and that Cheryl was still their little girl no matter what she'd done. It was ridiculous. They were willing to overlook her cheating and manipulation just because she was their favorite. Meanwhile, Cheryl remained silent. Not a word from her. I didn't know if she was too ashamed to speak or if she was planning her next move, but either way, I didn't care. She'd lost her fiancé, her free trip to the Maldives, and probably most of the sympathy she'd soaked up from my parents. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Cheryl wasn't the type to admit defeat. If she was quiet, it was because she was plotting. And I wasn't wrong. A week later, she made her move. I woke up one morning to a barrage of texts from mutual friends and extended family. Apparently, Cheryl had begun to spread a new story that I had set her up to ruin her wedding and sabotage her relationship. She claimed that I had been following her for weeks, trying to catch her slipping, and that the video was just a desperate attempt to get back at her for exposing the alleged theft. It was absurd, but the damage was done. Some people bought her story, especially those who didn't know the whole story. They started texting me, calling me petty and vindictive. Others, thankfully, saw through her lies and told me they believed me. But I wasn't going to sit back and let them control the narrative. I had all the evidence, the video, the screenshots, the texts. If she wanted a public fight, I was ready. But before I could make a move, something unexpected happened. Sean stepped in. He posted a long message on social media that addressed everything. He explained the cheating, the accusations, the dinner, and even my role in exposing the truth. Gerald didn't ruin our relationship, he wrote. Cheryl did that all by herself. He just showed me what I needed to see. If anyone has a problem with him, take it up with me. The post went viral among our circle of friends and family. It shut down most of Cheryl's supporters overnight. People started reaching out to me, apologizing for jumping to conclusions. Even my parents went quiet for a while, probably realizing how bad they looked by taking her side so blindly. But Cheryl, she doubled down. Her next move would take things to a whole new level. Cheryl's next move was as bold as it was stupid. She tried to sue me for slander. Yes, you read that right. She actually hired a lawyer and filed a lawsuit, claiming that I had intentionally destroyed her reputation and caused her emotional distress. When I was served with the papers, I couldn't decide whether to laugh or get angry. She wasn't just desperate, she was delusional. I didn't waste any time. I hired Gerald's lawyer, showed them the video, the texts, and Sean's social media posts, and they immediately said I had nothing to worry about. This is a scare tactic, they told me. But if she wants to go to court, we'll go to court. And so we did. The court date was about a month later. Most of the family showed up, probably out of morbid curiosity. Sean was there too, sitting quietly in the back. Cheryl arrived with her lawyer, looking smug and confident, as if she'd already won. The judge wasn't impressed. Her lawyer argued that I had maliciously recorded and distributed private footage of Cheryl, causing her to lose her relationship and social standing. But Gerald's lawyer immediately shut that down. They pointed out that the footage was taken in a public place and showed behavior that directly contradicted Cheryl's previous accusations against me. They also pointed out that I had only shown the video to our immediate family until Cheryl's lies forced the situation into the public eye. Then came the best part. Sean took the stand. He testified that Cheryl had accused me of stealing without evidence and tried to alienate me from the family. He confirmed that the video was the only reason he learned the truth about her cheating. Gerald didn't ruin anything, he said. He saved me from wasting my life on someone who didn't respect me or our relationship. Cheryl's lawyer tried to cross-examine him, but Sean didn't flinch. He stuck to the facts and left no room for interpretation. When it was Cheryl's turn to testify, her story completely fell apart. She contradicted herself several times, claiming at one point that the man in the video was just a friend, and at another point that she and Sean were on a break when it happened. The judge wasn't buying any of it. By the end of the hearing, it was clear where things were headed. The judge dismissed the case, ruling that I hadn't defamed Cheryl and that the evidence I had presented was both truthful and relevant. But the real kicker came when the judge scolded Cheryl directly. "You have wasted this court's time with baseless accusations," she said. "It is clear that this lawsuit was an attempt to deflect blame for your own actions. I urge you to reflect on the decisions that led you here today." Cheryl left the courtroom in tears. After that, the tables were turned. No one, not my parents, not our extended family, not even her closest friends, would have anything to do with her lies. Sean cut off all contact and completed the process of moving out. My parents, humiliated and ashamed, finally admitted they'd been wrong to take her side. It wasn't a dramatic apology, just a quiet acknowledgement when my father called me one night and said, "We made a mistake. I hope one day you can forgive us." I told him I'd think about it, and I meant it. Forgiveness wasn't going to be easy after everything they put me through. As for Cheryl, she completely disappeared from the family scene. She moved out of state a few weeks later, claiming she needed a fresh start. From what I've heard, she has struggled to keep friends or a job ever since. Her reputation followed her, as it should have. I won't pretend that this whole ordeal hasn't left scars, it has. But in the end, the truth prevailed, and I was finally free of the cloud Cheryl had tried to hang over me. I don't regret exposing her. She started the war, and she paid the price. Cheryl tried to frame me, accused me of stealing 10 grand, just to make me look bad. The nerve, but she had no idea I had my own ace in the hole. The days leading up to that dinner were tense, with her smug little comments in the group chat and my parents eating it all up. But I stayed quiet, knowing what I had planned. That dinner was my battlefield. I lured them all in, even Sean, pretending I was there to apologize. Then, I hit play. Her little secret rendezvous in the coffee shop parking lot, all caught on video. The look on Sean's face when he saw it? Priceless. She'd accused me of tearing the family apart, but she was the liar, the cheater. I didn't stick around for the fallout. They wanted a villain? Fine, but it wasn't going to be me this time. After that, there was radio silence from the family, but Sean actually called to thank me. He saw the truth, and he was done with her. Even my parents eventually texted, a weak attempt at guilt-tripping me for ruining Cheryl's life. I wasn't having it. Truth is truth. But Cheryl? She wasn't done. She started spreading lies about me, trying to paint me as some vengeful mastermind. Luckily, Sean had my back and set the record straight online. That shut a lot of people up. Then came the ultimate act of desperation, a slander lawsuit. Seriously? She tried to sue me for telling the truth about her cheating and lies. That went about as well as you'd expect. My lawyer laughed, and the judge basically told Cheryl she was wasting the court's time. After that, even my parents finally admitted they'd been wrong. Cheryl? She vanished, probably trying to outrun her own reputation. It wasn't easy, but in the end, the truth won. She started this war, and she definitely paid the price. I finally felt free.